Welcome all. This is my old faithful 1977 3.5 Sport, which I've owned now for over a decade, and the Morini Riders Club annual track day at Cadwell Park is rapidly approaching, and I need to do a Cambelt change, so I thought we would try and do this all in one take, and we'll see just how quick it is to do a Cambelt. I did have a slight advantage there with the rear set foot pegs, and I didn't have to drop a foot peg down out the way. Need to get the spring washer out. Mustn't forget that, or the firewheel puller won't go in all the way and you risk stripping the threads. So let's get our timing marks lined up, so the dot on the cam, mark on the case, and this style of flywheel, dot on the case back here, later ones in line with the cam. Bottom alternator screw comes straight out. The next ones, you've got to be careful not to damage the alternator itself, and I'm going to have to get another tool. One. So I haven't faked this because otherwise I'd have come in and cracked those first. So once those are slackened off a bit, I can turn the alternator and get clearance for that screw to come out, and then turn it the other way. Clearance for the other screw. Now it just so happens that the alternator fits on the peg, but what you should really do for safety is disconnect the battery, and I happen to know that's the battery wire. Otherwise, if you're not 100% certain, disconnect it at the battery itself. The spring comes off, circlip, another spring, belt guide, and then we can, and this belt's got a little bit of wear in it, it's not too bad. You're allowed up to 6mm of slack, so this will slide across. Your belt goes on. Just takes a little bit of coaxing to, especially with a new belt that's nice and tight. And this one looks like it is going to be a good and tight belt. You shouldn't need to force it on. Once you've got it lined up, it should just slide in place. Back on with the belt guide washer, on with the spring, back on with the circlip, making sure that that really is in the groove. The alternator spring, make sure you get the cable under the bottom mounting bracket. First screw in and turn. The second screw has a little tab to keep the wiring under control. Centralise that up. Nip it tight. Bottom screw goes in. Check that the taper on the flywheel is clean. Line up the keyway. In with the spring washer. On with the nut. Now I use the air gun again. I've got the torque set down to an appropriate setting. Number 2 on mine at 90 psi of line pressure. And when I pull the trigger, I'm watching for the socket to just as it begins to slow and stop rotating. That's set. And we'll turn the engine over a couple of times to check that the belt's tracking okay and that the the flywheel isn't rubbing on the alternator. And we can put the side cover back on. Give those a final nip. And job done. Ready to be fired up. Let's put the battery connection back on. And the side panel on, and we'll call that complete. I'll clear the tools out of the way, drop the bench down, and we'll see if it'll fire up. It hasn't been started in some while, so it might be a little reluctant. Plus we are inside, so actually, I'll have to move the bench before I can let it down. So I'll pause the video here. That up to this point was all done in one take. Alright, let's give this a go. That's not too bad after a few months of standing, and I didn't clean the carbs or anything. I think we'll call that a success.